For nearly 2,000 years, skeptics claimed he never existed, that Pontius Pilate, the man who sentenced Jesus to death, was nothing more than a fictional character created by early Christians. Then, in 1961, archaeologists struck their shovels into the sandy ground of an ancient Roman city and pulled out a limestone block that would silence the doubters forever. Carved into that stone were 3 Latin words that shook the foundations of history: Pontius Pilate, prefect of Judea. But here's what they don't tell you. That stone wasn't the only discovery. In fact, there are at least 10 places mentioned in the Bible, places where miracles happened, where prophecies were fulfilled, where Jesus himself walked, that you can still visit today. And the archaeological evidence found at these sites? It's undeniable. I'm talking about the actual stones Jesus stepped on, the pool where a blind man received his sight, the city where followers of Jesus were first called Christians, even the boat his disciples used on the Sea of Galilee. What you're about to see will strengthen your faith in ways you never imagined. Because sometimes, the best apologetics isn't an argument. It's a stone, a tunnel, or a fishing boat that's been waiting 2,000 years to tell its story. Let's begin. Caesarea Maritima stands today on Israel's Mediterranean coast, about 30 miles north of Tel Aviv. Built by Herod the Great, it's now an impressive archaeological park. But it's what was discovered here in 1961 that changed everything. Archaeologists found a limestone block with a Latin inscription. On its surface, clearly carved, were the words identifying Pontius Pilate as prefect of Judea, the exact title mentioned in the Gospels. For years, critics argued that Pontius Pilate might never have existed. But this stone is tangible, physical proof. It connects the crucifixion of Jesus to a real time, a real place, and a real Roman governor. Think about that. The man who asked, "What is truth?" while standing before truth himself. His name is carved in stone, waiting for us to find it 2,000 years later. But Caesarea holds more secrets. In 2024, archaeologists believe they discovered the very prison cells where the Apostle Paul was held captive before being sent to Rome. The Bible records his words, "You have appealed to Caesar you will go." And it was here, in Caesarea, that something revolutionary happened. For the first time, a non-Jewish person was baptized. The Apostle Peter baptized Cornelius, a Roman centurion, and declared, "God has shown me that I should not call anyone impure or unclean." The gospel was breaking barriers, and it started right here. For centuries, pilgrims visited a small pool in Jerusalem, believing it was where Jesus healed a man born blind. They venerated it, prayed there, treasured it. They were wrong. In 2004, a water pipe burst during construction in the Silwan neighborhood. Workers were digging to fix the sewer when their shovels struck something hard. Ancient stone steps. What they uncovered was monumental. The real Pool of Siloam. The same pool from Jesus' time. The Bible tells us that Jesus made mud, placed it on a blind man's eyes and said, "Go, wash in the Pool of Siloam." When the man washed, he could see for the first time in his life. The pool they found had 3 tiers of 5 steps each, exactly matching biblical descriptions. And inside, they discovered coins from the time of Pontius Pilate, from Alexander Jannaeus, even from the Great Jewish Revolt of 66 AD. But here's what makes this incredible. The Pool of Siloam wasn't just any pool. During the Feast of Tabernacles, priests would descend these very steps with golden jugs, fill them with water, then walk in procession to the temple. Archaeologists uncovered the entire path, over 1/3 of a mile of original paving stones. The same stones Jesus walked on. You can even see ancient cart tracks still visible in the rock. In 2026, this site opens fully to the public. Imagine walking the exact path Jesus walked from the pool to the Temple Mount. Your faith isn't built on myths. It's built on stones you can touch. On the northwestern shore of the Sea of Galilee lie the ruins of Capernaum. This wasn't just another village Jesus visited. This was his home base, his ministry headquarters. The Bible says, leaving Nazareth, he went and lived in Capernaum. But for the longest time, people asked, where exactly was Capernaum? In 1894, Franciscan archaeologists identified the location after finding inscriptions mentioning Capernaum, the original Hebrew name. What they discovered was breathtaking. Beneath a beautiful white marble synagogue from the 4th century, they found the foundation of an older black stone synagogue. This was the synagogue where Jesus taught, where he declared, "I am the bread of life." But the most stunning discovery? A simple first-century house buried beneath an octagonal church. On the walls of that house, archaeologists found ancient writings, Jesus' name, Christian symbols, fish, crosses. These are the oldest Christian writings ever discovered at an actual biblical site. Scholars believe this was the house of Peter, one of Jesus' closest disciples. This is where Jesus healed Peter's mother-in-law. From this house, he went out to calm the storm on the sea. Here, he raised Jairus' daughter from the dead. In Capernaum, he called Matthew the tax collector to follow him. Today, you can visit. A modern church has been built directly over Peter's house, and through a glass floor, you can look down at the very room where Jesus lived among his disciples. If this is strengthening your faith, do me a favor, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me which discovery surprised you most so far. And subscribe, because we're just getting started. Now, let's talk about something floating in a museum that shouldn't exist. The Sea of Galilee. A warm, freshwater lake sitting 650 feet below sea level. This is where Jesus called his first disciples, calmed a raging storm, and even walked on water. But there was always a problem. No one had ever found a fishing boat from the time of Jesus. Not one. So skeptics questioned, did these boats even exist? Are the gospel stories embellished? Then came 1986. A severe drought caused the lake's water to recede dramatically. Two brothers, both fishermen, were walking along the newly exposed shore when they noticed something sticking out of the mud. Ancient wood. What archaeologists pulled from that mud shocked the world. A 27-foot-long fishing boat, perfectly preserved, from the 1st century. Radiocarbon dating confirmed it, circa 40 AD, the exact time of Jesus. This boat could carry up to 15 people. Suddenly, a Bible verse comes alive. He got into one of the boats and taught the people from the boat. And here's something fascinating. Violent storms still strike this lake without warning. Furious winds descend from the surrounding mountains, turning calm water into chaos within minutes. A furious squall came up. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping. The disciples panicked. They thought they were going to die. But Jesus stood up, rebuked the wind and waves, and everything became calm. That boat is still here. You can stand before it today, not as a tourist, but as a witness to a story that traveled through 2,000 years to reach you. Because Jesus didn't teach from imaginary boats in mythical lakes. He was real, and the evidence is right there in a museum in Israel. For many years, skeptics pointed to the Gospel of John and laughed. The text describes a pool called Bethesda, with 5 covered colonnades, 5 porches. Critics said, that's impossible. Pools have 4 sides, not 5. This proves the Bible is fiction. Then, in 1888, a German architect was digging near the Church of St. Anne in Jerusalem when his shovel struck stone. As he kept digging, he uncovered something that silenced every critic. 2 large rectangular pools, side by side, and between them, a wall dividing them. That's 5 sides, exactly as the Bible described. But the story that happened here is even more powerful than the discovery. A man had been paralyzed for 38 years, nearly 4 decades unable to walk, unable to work, completely alone. Jesus found him lying by the pool and asked a profound question. Do you want to be healed? The man didn't say yes. Instead, he said, Sir, I have no one to help me into the pool. His biggest problem wasn't the paralysis. It was loneliness. Then Jesus spoke, Get up, pick up your mat, and walk. Instantly, 38 years of paralysis vanished. The man stood up, picked up his mat, and began to walk. But this made the religious leaders furious. Why? Because it was the Sabbath, and carrying a mat on the Sabbath was considered work. When Jesus confronted them, he said he works just like his Father, even on the Sabbath. The Bible says, for this reason they tried all the more to kill him. Not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was even calling God his own Father, making himself equal with God. Today, you can visit the Pool of Bethesda. Some of the ancient columns were even taken to a cathedral in Memphis, United States, silent witnesses to a miracle that happened 2,000 years ago. Imagine this. You're a king. The most powerful empire in the world is marching toward your city. In days, maybe hours, they'll surround your walls and cut off your water supply. What do? This was King Hezekiah's dilemma in 701 BC when the Assyrians were coming. The Bible records his solution. Hezekiah made the pool and the tunnel and brought water into the city. He ordered workers to carve a tunnel through solid rock, over a third of a mile long, entirely by hand, with no modern tools. But here's the impossible part. Two teams started digging from opposite ends of the mountain, in complete darkness, guided only by the sound of hammers echoing through stone. How did they meet in the middle? In 1880, archaeologists discovered an inscription carved into the tunnel wall, written in ancient Hebrew. It reads, "When there were still 3 cubits to go, the miners heard each other's voices calling from opposite sides. They struck through and the water flowed." It was a miracle in the darkness. And here's what's stunning. The tunnel has an incredibly gentle slope, only a 12-inch difference from start to finish. This precise engineering allows water to flow smoothly even today, 2,700 years later. In 2023, using carbon-14 dating, scientists confirmed the tunnel was built in 700 BC, exactly as the Bible states. And where does the water empty? Into the Pool of Siloam, the same pool where Jesus would heal the blind man centuries later. The prophet Isaiah even prophesied about this tunnel. "You built a reservoir between the 2 walls for the water of the old pool." God knew. He always knew. Jericho is one of the oldest cities in human history, and it's the site of one of the Bible's most famous miracles. God gave Joshua an unusual battle plan. March around the city once a day for 6 days. On the 7th day, march around 7 times, blow trumpets, shout, and the walls will collapse. It sounds impossible, but archaeologists discovered something that defies explanation. When they excavated Jericho, they found that the walls fell outward, not inward. Think about that. In a normal siege, walls collapse inward from battering rams or attackers, but Jericho's walls fell outward, as if pushed from the inside by an invisible force. When the trumpet sounded, the army shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. But there's more. Archaeologists found something unusual: large quantities of grain stored in jars, untouched. Why is this significant? In ancient warfare, grain was incredibly valuable. Attacking armies would always loot the grain. But the Bible says God commanded the Israelites not to take anything from Jericho. It was to be devoted entirely to God and burned. Keep away from the devoted things, so that you will not bring about your own destruction. And that's exactly what the evidence shows. The grain was burned, not stolen. Joshua also pronounced a curse. Cursed before the Lord is the one who undertakes to rebuild this city. Centuries later, a man named Heel tried to rebuild Jericho, and just as the prophecy foretold, his sons died during construction. In 2023, Jericho was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Today, you can walk among ruins that witnessed one of the greatest displays of God's power in history. The walls fell, not because of human strength, but because God said they would. Listen, if you're feeling your faith getting stronger right now, you're not alone. Thousands of believers are discovering these truths. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next, because we're about to visit the place where followers of Jesus got their name. Beneath the modern Turkish city of Antakya lie the ruins of ancient Antioch of Syria. In its day, this was the 3rd largest city in the Roman Empire, home to 500,000 people. And it's here that something world-changing happened. The disciples were called Christians first at Antioch. Before this moment, followers of Jesus didn't have a distinct name. Some called them Nazarenes, or just Jews who follow the way. But in Antioch, in this diverse, multicultural city, they became known as Christians, followers of Christ. Why Antioch? Because this city was a melting pot. Greeks, Romans, Jews, Syrians, all living together, trading together. It was the perfect launching pad for the gospel to spread beyond the Jewish community. Paul and Barnabas chose Antioch as their base. From here, they launched missionary journeys that would change the world. But Antioch was also the site of a crucial confrontation. When Peter came to Antioch, I opposed him to his face because he stood condemned. Paul challenged Peter publicly because Peter had been eating with Gentile believers, then stopped out of fear of what Jewish believers might think. This moment was critical. Paul declared that salvation comes through faith in Jesus alone, not by following Jewish law. From this confrontation, Christianity became truly universal, a message for all people, from all cultures. For centuries, Believers have visited St. Peter's Cave in Antioch, believing it's where early Christians met in secret to worship. Tragically, in 2023, a devastating earthquake struck the region. St. Peter's Cave and the ancient Antioch Synagogue, one of the oldest in the world, were severely damaged. But the message that was born in Antioch, that message is indestructible. He sent his son, born in a real stable, in a real town, to a real teenage girl who said yes to an impossible promise. And that son walked on real stones, taught in real synagogues, healed real people, died on a real cross, and rose from a real tomb. The evidence is still here, waiting for you. If this strengthened your faith today, share it with someone who needs to see it. Leave a comment telling me which site impacted you most, and subscribe, because we're going deeper into the mysteries and miracles that prove the Bible is true. God bless you, and remember, your faith stands on solid ground.